Hey everyone, Catch 'em All Collectibles here. In today's video, we are going to refresh a year-old video where I walk through reseller expenses, Catch 'em All Collectibles, family household expenses. Dan, why are you going to talk about your household expenses on a Pokemon channel? As I said then, one common question I get is, Dan, how did you know you were ready to quit your job? When should I quit my job? Am I ready to quit my job? I do consults here and there, and relatively commonly, people will ask me, do you think I'm ready? Number one question I have to ask, like, if you're comfortable giving it, what are your expenses? What are your expenses and how much money do you have to make things work out? And I think a lot of people, they spend what they make. Most people know what they make roughly, but a lot of people, their expenses are equal to their earnings, which is a different conversation. But a lot of people have no idea where the money goes. How much money will you start saving if and when you quit your job? How much money is related to your commute if you have one? How much money is related? All that stuff. And so, yeah, in this video, as I did a year ago, I'm going to dive into my expenses, my household, family, Catch 'em All Collectibles expenses. Family of 4. We have 2 cats and a dog as well. All their food, all their meds, all that stuff is included in this. $60,000. So this is 2023. I'm bringing you back to where refreshing on what I did in last video. So this year, did it go up? Did it go down? Inflation, is that a thing? Did the eggs price dropping significantly drop my expenses? Yes, apparently. I was shocked to see this. I don't monitor my expenses nearly as closely as I used to. I guess it's just a benefit of, like, Pokemon has put me in a really good financial spot. So I just don't pay as close of attention anymore. But this is how it broke down for 2024. You've got groceries, again, being the largest expense. It did drop about $3,000, which was surprising to me. Maybe it's all in the eggs that went down. Maybe they're up again. I really don't track that. We just went to Walmart the other day and spent $500 on groceries. I'm recording this while I'm in New Jersey. New Jersey Collecticon is over. I'm sure I had a great time. Friday, I had a get together with a bunch of friends. I provided the brisket, the beef ribs, the pork belly, all that stuff. Like, that's all included in my groceries, even when I'm providing food for other people. And that was a thing this year. That was a thing last year. But yeah, the numbers are just what they are. I don't feel like we significantly changed the way that we eat, but somehow we saved $2,500. We have pared down our chest freezer quite a bit. We've gone through some older stuff in our pantry, and maybe we have less inventory of groceries than we had in the 2023 snapshot that we took. I don't really know, but shopping around the same, up about 10%, I guess. Taxes up nearly 10%. That's just the thing. I do own my home outright, no debt. I am a very anti-debt, anti-bank person. I just don't like owing other people money. I don't like the increased risk that that brings to someone's financial situation, especially if they quit their job to do full-time something as risky as Pokemon. But yeah, my decision into deciding to quit my job to pursue Pokemon largely came because I had all my ducks in a row. I had all my affairs lined up in, sorry, this is 2016 spending expenses. That was pre-kids and all that in our starter home, only $40,000 for the year. But 2020, no, my expenses were not $191,000. In 2020, about this would have been, 2021, July of 2021, the anniversary is actually passing of when I put my 2-week notice in at my work. So 4 years I've been full-time Pokemon. Preempting, in 2020, I was thinking about going full-time Pokemon. It was on my mind. My 6-figure inventory had ballooned to 7 figures worth of valuation. My collection inventory, whatever you want to call it. And I paid off my house. I'm like, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to take the leap, I'm not going to have any debt when I do it. I was in the middle of a master's, or I had just finished a master's program. We had just had a child. We just moved. We moved in, we bought a house in 2019. We closed in 2020. But these are the things that I went through before I decided to take the leap. And these are things that I think it's only reasonable. I'm not saying, for me, I could not have any debt to quit my job to do Pokemon. I'm not saying that you can't have any debt to quit your job to do Pokemon. Again, this channel doesn't tell you what to do, what you should do, or this or that. It tells you what I did and why I think what I did is reasonable. And maybe that can help guide you through your thinking, whether you're quitting your job or not. I think it's interesting things to discuss and talk about. So here we are. Other things I wanted to add. I talked about it before, why I will never open an LGS. I made an entire video on that. And one thing I talked about, Dan, how are your auto expenses so low with a household of two with two vehicles? Again, the vehicles were bought with cash, no loan, no debt on the vehicles. So there's no interest, there's no car payments, there's no nothing. And this is just gas and vehicle expenses for one vehicle. So this is probably almost entirely, I could actually go in here and I could look at the exact, yeah, car insurance, gas and fuel, public transportation. I don't know what's going up with that. Maybe Uber and Lyft go in there, but those should actually mostly be business expenses. But that's one thing I wanted to get to. I wanted to get to the fact that one of my two household vehicles is wholly, entirely a business expense. And when you are a W-2 employee at your employer and you commute, if you commute an hour and you're putting on 20,000 miles a year on your vehicle and you've got to lease a vehicle because you put so much miles on it and you don't want to deal with the maintenance and all that, that's not something you can write off. As a W-2 employee, your commute is something that you do on your own. Basically, I don't know if it's because the IRS thinks like, oh, well, just move down the street and walk to work. We don't want you to be able to write off your commute. Whatever the case may be, when you are a business owner, when you are your own sole proprietor, LLC, S corporation, whatever you are, you now have the ability to write off all of your vehicle expenses. Whether you take the simplified mileage route, whether you take the more complex actual expenses, depreciate your vehicle cost, do your insurance cost, your maintenance costs, all that stuff. Whatever the case may be, one of my two vehicles, which I've always had, we've always been a two-vehicle household since my wife and I moved together in 2013. We've had two vehicles. But in 2021, when I quit my job to do it full time, and prior to 2021, one vehicle was subsidized a little bit because I might have had 10,000 miles for the year, 8,000 commute, 2,000 business. So those 2,000 miles were taken as a deduction on my reseller taxes. But I've done a couple videos on reseller taxes and how all that works, so I'll link that above as well. But yeah, here is what our expenses were in 2023. Last year, we're down about $57,000. I've mentioned the whole sugar mama meme. My wife, we've always had a pretty substantial savings rate. We've always been ones to not keep up with the Joneses, ones to not be on that hedonic treadmill. And we've definitely inflated our lifestyle a little bit since the 40K 2016 expenses, as you can see right there. But we spend so little that my wife's teacher salary can entirely encompass this. I talked about it in the last video. I won't get through the whole standard deduction, child tax credits, all that stuff. If we had only one income, if I did nothing and I just entirely let the sugar mama do her thing and I was Mr. Mom, stay-at-home dad, whatever you want to call it, we would be able to get by. And so everything I do in Pokemon is saved. We've maxed out our 401ks, IRAs. We are saving aggressively for the children. I want to give them more than I had growing up. I didn't have a free ride for college. I don't know if I want to give them a free ride for college. I've had a discussion a lot of times about enabling children, not entitling children. So yeah, trying to work out how to navigate through that. But yeah, let me know if in the comments, let me know if you are interested in seeing more finance videos. I did some time ago, a couple years ago, I did 10 years of selling on eBay and 10 years of how my sales and all that went. And I'll follow up on that in the future. I'll definitely show you how my gross sales on eBay, Fanatics, all these different places, how those have accumulated and how they've grown over the years. One thing I want to do too, 2026, sometime in January, February of 2026, when the year closes, 2025, I will be able to take my annual expenses and I will be able to do a video on 10 years of how my living expenses have grown. One major goal in my life, one major goal with this channel, with this business, it's all related. Dan, why are you talking about personal finances? Personal finances are related to my personal business because I need to fund my personal lifestyle. The entire goal of this channel, the entire goal of my business is to become financially independent. And yeah, 4 years of primarily being a Pokemon channel, but there's been little bits, there's been little segments, there's been little sections that have been finance oriented. So I started saying it, I don't think I finished it. If you're interested in more finance type content, more finance geared content, if you want me to drill into any additional things, maybe someday I'll have a purely finance channel. for all finance content. But as of right now, I just work it in here and there where I see fit. With that said, I think I covered everything I wanted to say. So yeah, let me go back full screen. If anyone has any questions, I am using the Simplifi product from Quicken. It's very good. I used to use solely Excel spreadsheets. I think it was better because it kept me more ingrained. I was doing it monthly, quarterly. I was staying way more up to date with everything. This being more hands off, the numbers can start to run away from you quicker. But I'm more measuring and monitoring so that I can manage the numbers. I'm not meticulously, here's my budget, I spent over this category, I've got to not spend in this category for the next few months. It's purely like a monitoring process. Because if I want to retire someday, if I want to be Bill Bengen, 4% rule, Trinity study, if I want to be 4% rule financially independent, I need to know what my baseline is. My baseline of $56,758, let's call it 57. I need 25 times that. I need $1.425 million saved to be 4% rural financially independent. And one thing I did forget to show, I wanted to show just like the average breakdown. Again, blows my mind how, and I've had these conversations with people in my personal life. I've had these conversations with people, friends, family, whatever it may be. I've had these conversations where people wanted to do a consult and get really in depth to the nitty gritty. Am I ready to go full-time Pokemon? And I ask them, what are your expenses? Where does it go? How much of it is this? How much is that? People have no clue. People have no clue how it breaks down. Here's the average annual. This is from the Visual Capitalist. This is from Voronoi. Let me scroll and make sure you can see that. I want to cite my sources. At the bottom left there, Voronoi, where data tells the story. Anyways, that's who made this visualization, so shout out to them. But housing. I don't have a mortgage. I don't pay rent. I am specifically only doing, where'd it go? This one. I'm specifically only paying in my taxes. I have taxes. One thing I didn't cover here too, and I think a couple people pointed it out last time. Dan, what about you own your home? So there's got to be some amount of maintenance. There's got to be some amount of upkeep. I've heard of rule of thumb. Rule of thumbs are not perfect, but I feel like this one's relatively accurate. My home these days, I bought it for 160 something. I put like 40 into it. It was probably a $250,000 house when I bought it, but I got it on a short sale. Yada yada yada. Probably worth 300 grand today, maybe more. Maybe that's conservative. I've heard 1 to 2% per year to save and plan for expenses. One thing that I'm very big on personal finance wise, there's no such thing as like in 99% of the time. Let me be fair to the 1% of like truly unexpected, unable to be anticipated. I was gonna say unanticipatable, unable to be anticipated emergencies like medical related, something along those lines. Especially if you don't have the insurance to cover it or anything. But 99% of financial emergencies, in my opinion, are at least forecastable, should be expected, to be expected if you have your buckets sorted out, if you have your, let me show the buckets. If you have your buckets sorted out, if you have your emergency fund, if you have all your ducks in a row, 99% of financial emergencies are just poor planning. I bought a house that was 20 years old. It had been built 20 years prior. My neighbor, his house was built the same year. He just put a roof on his house, about $12,000. My dad is very handy. I'm fairly handy myself. My uncle is a contractor. I'll probably be able to pay a better rate to be able to get it 6, 8 grand, 10 grand, maybe save a few $1,000s. But that is an expense that I've been mentally accounting for. Do I have it shown in here? No. When I get it done, maybe it'll be paid with cash. Maybe there'll be some special wheeling and dealing going around. The shingles will probably be bought. Well, they'll probably be bought by whoever does the roof, my uncle. But yeah, probably be mostly a cash deal from a cash that gets accumulated from time to time. Anyways, in the back of my mind, $300,000 house, be very conservative, 2%, $500 a month, mentally being bucketed towards when the water heater goes. A couple years ago, a year and a half ago, I put in a furnace. That was a few $1,000s. One of my dad's friends does HVAC, so I got a better deal on that. I helped some amount when that was done. But your car, you drive a 20-year-old car, 10-year-old car, the muffler goes. That's not an unforecasted emergency. That is an expectation. Wheel bearings, brakes, things like that. These are things that you should be planning for, saving for in your emergency fund. I'm just rambling there on that now. But those are some things that are not covered in here. but they are taken care of as they come to as they come up. In this one, a lot of this home was paying off my house. I did that with XY Evolutions cases primarily. I still need to make that video. I've teased that for a long time. Case study on XY Evolutions and how many I sold and up through the jump and all that. They're jumping again. Unfortunately, I only have the one box up behind me. But 120 of that might have been paying off the house. The other 30 grand was renovating the house that I'm in. So a lot of the expenses do show up, a lot of them, but not always all of them, because sometimes there are other arrangements being made for those types of things. But anyways, it's my numbers, it's the things that I'm planning for, and one thing you should always keep in mind: life can always change, life can always throw a wrench into your plans. But I plan to be in this house for 25 years. I'm putting a new deck on soon. I'm going to be doing it with materials in a way that hopefully it's one and done. I don't have to redo it before I sell the house or anything. The plan is to live in this house until the kids move out, and then we'll be downsizing from there, because we are not keeping up with the Joneses. We don't need to always increase our square footage and all that. We live well below our means, and thankfully, I think not everyone is this way, but most of what we value in life, most of what we get the most out of, are not significantly expensive things. Like we travel a decent bit in this budget. Within this budget, there's a decent bit of travel. You can see dining and drinks. You can see entertainment. Entertainment, I put a lot of the vacations and things like that. Another benefit of the business thing, and you need to be careful with how you do this. You need to do this properly. But Cleveland CollectCon I went to, and afterwards, the hotels in Cleveland were paid for by the business. A lot of the mileage was paid for by the business. But then we hit up Niagara Falls. That hotel, those bookings, that was all done on the personal expending. That will show up in the 2025 numbers. But if you fly down, fly down to Florida, fly over to California for a convention, and then you do the business things there, and then you do a couple days of personal stuff too. Very many ways that you can subsidize your living. This house that I live in, some percentage of my taxes are reduced. Some percentage of my utilities are reduced. And that's not even reflected here. That's not even reflected here that some amount of that is a deduction for my business. Some amount of my business income is essentially neutralized, and it's made to be tax-free, because these numbers, about $12,000 a year, $1,000 a month, not all of it, only the percent that is business use of home is written off into my business. So lots of different things here, lots of things to cover. Again, transportation, this is including debt, this is including car payments, things of that nature. I don't have those. So these numbers, my numbers are different. My numbers come out a fair bit lower. If you adjusted for the fact that I don't have a mortgage, that I don't have car loans, that wouldn't fully compensate for it. I think we actually spend above average. Probably we probably spend above average if you neutralize those things in this budget. But yeah, 3.6K for entertainment, whereas I am 6.5K, and it all depends on how you. Some of these things I might wrap into other ones. One thing that this doesn't cover either. This is only spending. This is not saving. We spend less than my wife makes in gross, in total. It won't be forever, but right now I'm making many multiples of what I used to make as a chemical engineer. And as a chemical engineer, I made more than we ever needed. More than the teacher's salary. It was never a six-figure income, but it was always fairly healthy. And one thing I might do when I do the 10-year thing, I might review my 401ks, and I'm not going to give the full balances of all of them. A lot of them could be presumed by the way that I talk about certain things. But one thing that I might do is a 10-year history on like my savings rate. And our savings rate, shout out to Mr. Money Mustache, back when I was reading personal finance blogs like crazy, the shockingly simple math behind early retirement. It was crazy to me how plainly it could be laid out what percentage your savings rate was, leading to how many years it takes you to get to financial independence. I'm going to pause really quickly. I will try to remember to link this in the description. I believe I linked it in the description in the video a year ago. I also made a video called Financial Advice. I might have linked it in that one. I will link that video above. Very passionate about finances. I think a lot of people just kind of like drift through life and they just swipe the credit card and they very subconsciously spend, and they don't keep mind of their money, and they're just going to work forever. And that's fine if that's what you want to do. But I knew from an early age that I did not want to be tied down to the old 9 to 5 for 40 years. So I, from an early age, dual income household before our kids, we were always saving a very high percentage. And this chart, it's very simple. It's very easy math. The shockingly simple math behind early retirement. If you save 64% of your income, and I've not achieved, in my early years, I was not achieving a rate that high. My rate has been very dynamic over the years because our spending is not a function of what we earn. We spend what we spend, and I mean, thankfully, I guess we've always earned more than we've spent, but a lot of that can be controlled. Some of it, necessities, the bare necessity, like you need to have some amount to get by. But I think a lot of people, going back to my rants on, I remember when I was getting heavy into the finance talk, the American dream came up, and the American dream is dead, and I don't buy into any of that stuff. Hedonic adaptation, people inflating their lifestyles, things that used to be considered luxuries, now considered necessities, and the average size of the average house growing. And I don't want to turn this into that whole rant. Let me know in the comments if you entirely disagree with me. But from early 2013, 2014, 2014 we moved in, 2015 we got married. So from 2015, when we were a dual income household, a few years before we had kids, we were always saving greater than 50% of our income. And if you look at 50% of your income, that leads to under 20 years to retirement. I don't know exactly what the exact number was, but I believe that's going to under 20 years. And I was always on a path. We were always on a path to be done having work be a mandatory thing. Not that we'd quit and do nothing for the rest of our lives. Not that that's where I'm headed in the next couple of years when we hopefully cross that number, if Pokemon continues going the way that it's going. But I always plan to do something productive. But yeah, this was always kind of the vision, kind of the goal. And one thing about saving is it's kind of like a dual thing. If you have income that you earn, and if you spend 100% of your income, you just have to work forever and you have to rely on Social Security, right? You're saving zero. You're never going to be able to retire. But if you save half your income, that's also 50% you're not spending. So it's like it gets you there twice as quick because you're earning double what you need. You're saving half of that. And any money additionally that you're saving, you're also not spending as a percentage. So the percentage is whether you make $1 million or whether you make $100,000. Very interesting to put it that way. I remember my eyes being opened back in 2012. 2012 is when the article was made. I can't remember exactly when I read it. I might have been reading this right when it came out, and that might have been a fresh one that I saw as it came out. But anyways, that is I got a lot more ranty and rambly and all over the place in the last 10 minutes of that. I thought that was going to be under 20 minutes. Naturally, it heads towards 25. But yeah, if anyone has any questions, comments, concerns on that, if you want to ask me questions about Simplifi, I'm a big fan of it. I actually might have an affiliate link down in the description below. I use Impact for Fanatics affiliate link things, and I saw that Simplifi was in there. So use it at your own risk. It's not really like, I don't feel worried because it's not a financial product. It doesn't take your money and hold your money. I guess it does get access to your accounts as far as like looking at them to see your expenses. But as far as I understand, it's like it's a read-only permissions. It's not like if Quick and Simplifi gets hacked. I don't believe, don't hold me to this, but I don't believe if Quick and Simplifi gets hacked that people are going to be able to empty your bank account and charge up your credit cards. So all that disclaimer, Dan, all those disclaimers, just in case I did get into the affiliate program, and leave you an affiliate link down there if you would like to get Quick and Simplifi. If not, I am a happy consumer of the product. I have been for a little bit over a year now when I first made that video. So as always, I appreciate you all watching. As I did last year, I will ask you, leave a money bag emoji if you made it all the way to the end. And let me know, definitely let me know if you are looking for more personal finance, business finance type content. I do use another Quicken product for doing all my business finances, and I've not yet shown any of that. Probably in early 2026 when I do my 2025 recap. Instead of showing it just the way that I've done in the past, I've always done an annual recap. I'll probably be tying in more of the Intuit, the Quicket, not Intuit. The Intuit is who I use for for doing my taxes. But yeah, so that is everything. I appreciate you all watching. I will catch you all later.